Here we are, final live draft of the off season. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today. You are listening to this on Wednesday, March 26th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we are doing a live 12-team head-to-head points draft, and this one we are playing out. Not a mock draft. It is one of two FBT listener leagues that we will be doing on successive nights. We're only streaming this one, though. We are using the CBS standard head-to-head lineup and scoring, one of each infield position, 3 outfielders, 1 utility bat, no corner, no middle, 5 starting pitchers, 2 relievers. We also have 3 IL spots. I will be drafting 6th, Chris is 7th, and Scott is 12th.
Yeah. That doesn't bother me at all. I've always said I love picking at the end.
It's not a bad spot this year.
This year,
well, if you go by tiers, though, it's really hard to anticipate what's coming back to you.
I mean, in the first round.
It
the first
flusters me, which everybody listening loves a flustered Scott. But Scott doesn't love a flustered Scott. I like being cool as a cucumber, sipping on my tea here. And to make matters worse, we're drafting with a bunch of fanboys here, so we know we're not going to get our favorite picks.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to scoop them out from under us 3 rounds too early.
Can you be cool as a cucumber while drinking tea? It's too warm.
Well, there are so many different meanings of the word cool. We went over this last time. It's not a temperature thing.
If you really want to see Scott tilt during tonight's draft, make your picks really fast so that he can't cross names off of his tier list.
I didn't want to bring that up.
We'll see Scott freaking out again like he was last week. Shout out to last year's champ, by the way. Listener Nathan McCullough actually took down the Listener League head-to-head points league. And so we wanted to give you a shout out before we pass the torch on to the next group of listeners. And we'll be live on YouTube for the entirety of this draft. This will be a 2-part podcast on the audio side of things. And I think with that, we are pretty much good to go. Scott, I think you have commish duties here. I do as well, but I just didn't have the page open right away. If you want to start it up, I could do it as well. And here we go. We are off and running.
Yeah. Aaron Judge, here we come.
We'll see. Scott's gonna do that thing where he speaks picks into existence. Well, not that you're going to ever get Aaron Judge anyway, but it's probably going to be the pick.
Juan Soto, that'd be a little offbeat. Maybe he goes Tarek Skubal here. We haven't seen starting pitchers get pushed up in a head-to-head points league yet.
Just making sure Ben is here, and he takes Shohei Ohtani.
Literally just as Shohei Ohtani doubled in the spring game that he's playing. So good pick.
That's right.
That's why he picked him here. He saw that double.
You don't get these points, by the way. Just a reminder. I do have the game on as well. So a little dual screen action watching.
You don't get that home run he hit in Tokyo either.
That's true. We are not including the Tokyo games in this draft whatsoever. The first week, by the way, for those playing in this league, if you're watching, will be an 11-day scoring period. So not just the first 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. It'll be Thursday through Sunday, April 6th. So
everybody's a 2-star player.
Everybody.
Pitcher.
Almost. Some teams have only 9 games.
First 3 picks after Ohtani, Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt. So your consensus for most of the offseason, followed by Jose Ramirez. And I am on deck here.
On deck.
Nothing surprising going on.
How happy would you be if Juan Soto made it to you at 6?
Come on, Scott. Why you gotta do that, man? Just come on. Maybe this guy is anti-Mets, and he wants to go with someone else.
Maybe.
I think
maybe he's one of those. Oh no!
See, that would have been a
too
fantastic.
Bad.
So the top player in my rankings is Kyle Tucker. I have Kyle Tucker on quite a few teams already, but if we're remaining consistent like we have been for most of the offseason, then the pick shall be Kyle Tucker. But there was part of me that maybe wanted to diversify a little bit and take Corbin Carroll. But for consistency's sake, we'll take Kyle Tucker 6th overall.
Yeah, those plate discipline gains he made last year really improved his head-to-head points appeal. So I think that makes sense as long as those gains hold.
Yeah, he was on close to a 650-point pace in this scoring format, which is a huge number. It's not Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge huge, but it's not far from what Bobby Witt Jr. managed last year.
Points per game, 409 for Tucker versus 413 for Soto.
Yep.
After I selected Kyle Tucker, Chris, you took Yordan Alvarez, followed by Gunnar Henderson, who we know will be starting this season on the IL with that intercostal strain. Then Corbin Carroll. Chris, is Yordan actually your 7th player in this format? Or maybe even a little bit higher. Who knows?
Yes, he is my number 7 player. I have him after Kyle Tucker. So the draft went basically in exactly the order that I have it ranked. I have Judge ahead of Ohtani, but other than that, exactly how I had it. It'll get weirder from here on out, presumably.
For sure. After Corbin Carroll, Vlad Jr., and Francisco Lindor, to a team with the name They Took Our Job. That is an A-plus team name. Love that. Scott, you were up for 2.
Oh, I don't like this at all. So my top 2 players on the board are Tarek Skubal and Zach Wheeler. Do I want to build around pitching? Absolutely not. After that would be Mookie Betts, but I have lowered him a little bit with the concerns over his weight. So the top hitter is Ellie De La Cruz for me. And then after that, Bryce Harper. Both of them feel kind of early.
Ellie is your MVP pick, though.
Yeah, he is. I think I'm going to take him. And I think I'm going to take Bryce Harper because I vowed after the last 2 head-to-head points mocks we did not to pass up an elite first baseman when I have a chance, because particularly in this scoring format where you're taking Jake Berger out as a usable option, you're taking who else are you taking out as a usable option? Ryan Mountcastle is not somebody you can fall back on. Michael Tolia strikes out too much. Like they're just unusable in this format. And the Vinny Pasquantino types tend to get pushed up. So this is the format where you can really get boxed out at first base. I don't want to do that. So I'm taking Harper here with De La Cruz. I'm going to leave those aces and Mookie Betts for someone else.
For those listening, Ellie De La Cruz averaged 3.5 fantasy points per game last season, which is still a really good amount, just not the same level as players who went in the earlier first round. So, with his plate discipline and strikeouts, he does fall a little bit more in this format, but in a category or head-to-head categories of Roto League, Ellie De La Cruz will likely be a top 6 or 7 pick in all of those drafts. And we are into round 2.
How would you guys? Would you guys hate starting a head-to-head points team, Ellie De La Cruz and Bryce Harper?
I think it's fine.
Hate is a strong word, but I will agree it wasn't the best.
What you were hoping for at
it
pick
wasn't
12,
the best
right?
possibility of things that can happen in this format for you at the turn there. I might have been tempted to take one of the aces, but
I was tempted. I just know that, from all the drafts we've done, so many dozens of drafts, it is much more likely that I'm going to feel like I didn't get as many high-end hitters as I wanted than that I didn't give myself a pitching staff that I felt comfortable with.
Here's a question. Would you have felt better if it was Vladimir Guerrero or Francisco Lindor instead of Ellie De La Cruz?
That's what I was hoping for, actually, was Lindor and Vlad.
Because he was almost exactly as good as those guys last year.
De La Cruz?
Yeah.
Yeah, but first base, part of that's the scarcity thing. There's not near the scarcity at shortstop for this format as for first base. But yeah, De La Cruz has untapped upside that Lindor and
I think his floor is fairly similar to Vlad, for Francisco Lindor at least.
It makes a big
higher than Vlad's, honestly. We've seen much worse from Vlad.
And it makes a big difference given CBS scoring, which gives 2 points per stolen base and minus half a point for strikeouts. If it was 1 point for stolen bases and minus a full point for strikeouts, De La Cruz is like not even going in the first 3 rounds, probably. So the score, but he might strike out a lot less this season with the shortened swing he did this spring. By the way, Mookie Betts went right after that pair of picks 14, the second pick of round 2. So didn't fall that much. And we did get an encouraging report on him.
He's playing today.
He's in the lineup tonight.
He's in the lineup.
So.
Yeah.
I no word on how skinny he looks, but
probably not any skinnier than 2 days ago.
He looks very skinny.
Probably not any bigger than 2 days ago.
He always looks skinny,
Yeah. After Mookie Betts, we got Tarek Skubal, Fernando Tatis, Paul Skeens, and Zach Wheeler. Chris, I just have to ask, if it was Skeens versus Wheeler at your pick, who would you have taken?
I haven't drafted Skeens yet, so I would have been tempted to take him just to see what happened,
I know you started the offseason with Wheeler over Skeens. Has that remained?
Yeah, it's remained. Nothing has changed for either of those two.
Yep. I don't know, just the hype, Maybe you would have fallen into the love fest for Paul Skeens.
No. I'm a contrarian, so I don't do that.
He's a first-round pick in a lot of drafts. Not this one, obviously, as we've kind of talked down elite pitching and waiting a little bit more on those guys. But they do go here in the second round. Chris, you selected Zach Wheeler. I took Trey Turner. So I've got Kyle Tucker and Trey Turner to start my team off here. One outfielder, one shortstop. So shortstop is a position that can kind of go sideways fast, the way you talked about first base, Scott. So I am happy to get Trey Turner and get shortstop out of the way here.
I don't feel that way about shortstop because I am okay in this format with Xavier Edwards or Carlos Correa as my starter. They both excelled in this format last year. Edwards points per game similar to Elly De La Cruz, Correa similar to Trey Turner. Not that I'm counting on Xavier Edwards being quite that good again, but he does have, with the 2 points per steals and the fact he walks a lot, he does have a skill set that's good for this. And they do get pushed up a bit with people who know what they're doing, but not enough that they're pricey options. And if they don't pan out, it's not like we go deep into the hitter pool in this format. So I think there will be ample fallback options.
Yeah. I don't think I have as much confidence in Xavier Edwards and Correa as you do, but if you feel that way, then yes, you can wait on those names at the position. After Trey Turner, Ketel Marte, William Contreras, and Freddie Freeman goes 22nd overall.
You all laughed at me for pushing William Contreras into round 2 of that mock we did, that head-to-head points mock. Started a trend. I am a trend setter.
I keep telling you to put fantasy baseball influencer in your X bio, but you won't do it. I don't know why.
Because I don't call it X mainly.
Twitter. What do you guys want me to call it?
It's fine. You could call it X. That is its name. Eventually, I'm sure I'll start calling it X. It just doesn't. It doesn't sound like its own unique thing. Like people say X, and it doesn't sound like it's referring to anything in particular.
It's also like when I like reference something I saw on a different social media platform, like Threads or Blue Sky or whatever. I still want to call it a tweet.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's still a tweet to me.
Yeah. After William Contreras, Freddie Freeman, Chris Sale, and Jarren Duran. Are you guys okay with Freddie Freeman here, 22nd overall? Just the way everything has played out this spring, the rib and finding out he's going to need treatment on that ankle throughout the season. What do you think?
I wish all of that hadn't happened. But given the way first base plays out in this scoring format in particular, I vowed that if I picked at the round 2-3 turn, I would not pass up a first baseman there. So I'm fine with it. I might have, if I was picking 22nd, which meant third in round 1, I might have passed up Freeman there to see if he made it back to me in round 3, knowing I could probably fall back on Olsen if he didn't. But I would not let that turn pass without me taking a first baseman in this format.
All right. After Freeman, we got Chris Sale and Jarren Duran to finish out round 2. Into round 3, Corey Seager, Cole Reagans, and Rafael Devers. So do want to pull up the name here of team 2. That's Greg Stymist. And he is, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. He started his team with, I believe it was either Witt or Judge and 2 starting pitchers. So it'll be interesting to see the way that offense comes together here and, kind of zigging when others are zagging and grabbing some starting pitchers early on.
Also noteworthy that the guy who took Rafael Devers was also the person who took Freddie Freeman. So that's an interesting combo. A lot of people are shying away from those two, but not Team Uncle Wax.
Uncle Wax, by the way, is the gentleman who made those one-of-one baseball cards of us. So shout out.
Yeah. Oh, that was great.
All right.
We may be timing out.
Eternal Buzz.
Oh,
Out of time. We might need to fix that pick for him because that doesn't look like an intentional one.
Well, that's not what the top player in the projections is. So I don't know where that would have came from.
yeah. The pick was Marcus Semien, by the way. I don't know.
The team name is Eternal Buzz, so he probably thought he had eternity until the buzzer sounded.
Oh,
But it turns out he did not. And
he said he missed it. So yeah.
Okay, he's going to pick again.
All right. We're back up. I am 2 picks away. We're getting dangerously close to a monologue here, trying to figure out what I need to do. Got Trey Turner and Kyle Tucker so far.
Frank, if the top player in your rankings is there, are you going to take him?
Yes.
Okay. Just need to know so I don't get my hopes up. Because Julio Rodriguez has fallen too far.
No name dropping.
Even like this is not his best format, and last year was obviously very bad for him. But in 2023, he had 557 points in this format. That's a borderline first rounder, and he's made it midway through the third. Yeah, so I think Julio Rodriguez is going to be a great value, whether it's now or if you want to take someone else. I think you should. I think that'd be great, actually. Jackson Churio is really good.
Hey, you know what? It is kind of tempting.
I do rank Churio ahead of Rodriguez.
I think you should probably take Jackson Churio. I think.
Nope. I know that you want Julio Rodriguez.
Talking into it.
I know that you don't have him.
What do you want, Frank? It's not just about denying Chris.
I'm going to take the player that's at the top of my rankings right now. Okay. If you're both outfielders and
Coward.
ahead, then coward for following my rankings. Let's go.
Exactly.
Third round.
I've noticed I now have Jackson Churio several spots higher than both of you, so I guess I'm the weird one.
And Chris,
I'll take Jackson Churio.
Change your team name because it's Jackson Merrill, like the Pokemon Merrill.
Well, maybe
Churio over Jackson Merrill.
Maybe I'll just go 3 outfielders in my first 4 picks just so I can keep the team name. You never know.
That would be something if Jackson Merrill made it all the way back to you, huh?
Yeah, I don't expect that, and I probably wouldn't do that even if he did, but we'll see.
All right, well, catching people up after Devers, Matt Olson, Logan Gilbert was the pick right before me. Then I took Julio Rodriguez and Jackson Churio. So I've got J-Rod, Kyle Tucker, and Trey Turner. Chris, you have Jackson Churio to go along with
Zach Wheeler and Yordan Alvarez. So
it's pretty good.
Big volume pitcher. Alvarez, obviously, there's some concern about the playing time with his injury history, but he is a superstar in any format. And I still think we're going to get a 50 homer season from Yordan Alvarez at some point. His career high is only 37, so that would be a big outlier, but the combination of quality of contact and quantity of contact is I might need to go grab a Diet Coke. I'm feeling it right now. The combination of quality of contact and quantity of contact for Yordan Alvarez is something very few players in this game can match. So yeah.
All right. Well, the next 3 picks, Jazz Chisholm. Well, there was Jackson Merrill, then Jazz Chisholm, Austin Riley, and Garrett Crochet. Scott, you are back up. Your first 2 picks were Ellie De La Cruz and Bryce Harper.
Yes. What am I going to do? I'm tempted to take another a pitcher again. I didn't last time. I'm tempted to do it again because Corbin Burns is still there. But I don't think I'm going to. I'm definitely going to take Manny Machado. He's the last at the tier there. the last of the elite third baseman, and maybe better even for this format than Austin Riley, and healthier than Rafael Devers. So I'm fine with that. It comes down to, do I want to take Jose Altuve first at second base? Because I know that position can also thin out for this format, particularly where you don't have those category specialists to latch on to. Do I want to take Kyle Schwarber just because he's good in this format? I think I'm going to pass on Schwarber. I think I just really want a star-studded lineup. And so I'm going to take Jose Altuve. And that way, my whole infield is Studley now. Harper, Altuve, Machado, Ellie De La Cruz.
No outfielders.
No outfielders yet. Yeah, but it's only 3 outfielder league, and yeah, I'm happy with that. I don't think I have Altuve on a team yet this year either, so it'll be good to have some investment in him. And I'd rather do it in a shallower league like this, where if he just collapses or something because of his age, or he gets hurt, which he's been known to do from time to time, not all hope is lost for me.
All right, into the 4th round. The next pick was Wyatt Langford. Let's take a quick break, and we'll catch you up right after this.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today, doing a live 12-team head-to-head points draft, and this is one of our listener leagues, so we are playing this one out, and we'll catch you up on the 4th round. After Wyatt Langford went 38th overall, we got Kyle Schwarber and Corbin Burns. Chris, you are on deck. Talk to us.
I would have taken Corbin Burns if he was there, but he was just taken, and I'm not sure what direction to go in now. Do you
have a first baseman yet, Chris?
I do not have a first baseman yet. I suppose I could go with Pete Alonso. I am also considering Marcell Ozuna as the top remaining utility. Not really considering any of the pitchers here. I was also considering Ronald Acuna, who is the top player in all 3 of our rankings. Obviously going to have to manage for a month, but I don't hate the idea of having Ronald Acuna for the final 5 months of the season. So I'm going to draft him and just move him to my bench right now so that I know I still need an outfielder early on.
Yeah, this is the format to do it in. You've got IL spots, a couple of them anyway, and only 3 outfielders. We only go so deep into the hitting pool, as I've said. So the quality of the Acuna fill-in is going to be pretty high. And then obviously when he's back, he's potentially a league-winning type of player. So that I think makes sense, and I may resent you for it come May.
I was thinking about taking one of the util-only bats too. Marcell Ozuna, Brent Rooker still out there, but wanted to grab that first starting pitcher, Framber Valdez, who just, I think we all like in general this season. If you wait on starting pitching a little bit and grab him in round 4, 5, 6, sometimes in round 6, he's there. But in this format in particular, he goes deep into his starts. He's a workhorse, regularly goes, 6, 7 innings, and getting ground balls allows him to be efficient. Should win a lot of games, obviously, pitching for a good team, contract year. So we know that can help pitchers stay on the mound and just stay on the field in general. So happy to get Framber Valdez there in the middle of round 4 as my SP1.
You guys both referenced potentially taking Ozuna, who had a great year last year, obviously. But I'm surprised how big the gap is between him and Schwarber, who also went this round. Schwarber 3.41 points per game last year. Ozuna 3.24. So nearly 0.2 of a points difference there, which may not.
Schwarber is so good in this format.
Yeah, it may not sound like much, but it is.
Ozuna outscored him. I guess Schwarber did play 12 fewer games. Ozuna played every game last year. So yeah, I guess.
The plate discipline is a little bit different because Ozuna doesn't walk as much and Schwarber walks a lot. And I mean, they're both going to strike out, a decent amount here, but the walks in the OBP is really what I see as the biggest difference between the two. Kyle Schwarber and Marcell Ozuna there.
It's like the difference between Marcus Semien and Brendan Donovan last year, 0.2 of a point, or the difference between Bryce Terang and Jordan Westberg being the higher one there. So yeah, it's not nothing.
After I took Valdez, Dylan Cease, Blake Snell, Logan Webb, and Alex Bregman. So a bit of a pitching run here. And then Bregman, who that will shock some people, but this is his preferred format. I know he didn't walk as much last season, but a typical Bregman year, it's great plate discipline, more walks than strikeouts, big OBP, and just playing in Fenway, it feels like Bregman's going to have a huge season. So,
yeah, it's a really good park for him. I think it's a slightly worse park than the one he just left, but the shape of his production will be different. I think he'll still be incredibly productive. I think it'll be fewer homers, more doubles and singles, but that's not a bad thing in this format because you directly get points for singles and doubles in a way you don't in a roto league. So I think it's early relative to where he was likely to go and where he usually does, but it's totally defensible.
We're doing our bold predictions podcast tomorrow. Little sneak peek though. Bold prediction for me. Alex Bregman sets a career high for batting average this year.
What is his career high? Like 315?
No, 290, I believe.
Okay. He had a season over 300.
That sounds right to me.
It looks like 296.
All right. So yeah, you have to hit close to about 300.
Yep.
All right. Well, Scott, you can't use that one tomorrow now. You have to come up with another bold.
I can still say it.
It
doesn't take long to say.
Twice on the show.
You shortchange the people out of a bold prediction. You can't do that. Come on, Scott. We need another one now.
Nobody wants to listen to a draft right now. They've already tuned out. It'll be fine.
No, let's get back into the draft. At the 4-5 turn, we got Ozzie Albies and James Wood, followed by Seth Lugo, Brian Reynolds, and Michael King. So
that Seth Lugo pick, very interesting.
If
last year happens again, it's a great pick.
541 points last year. That's a huge number.
Nobody's ranking him that high, but it's not unthinkable. I like him as around 40th at starting pitcher where he tends to go, and maybe a little higher than that in this format. Let's see. I rank Lugo for this format where you're not as concerned with strikeouts and where you really love that volume. I rank him closer to 35th, but this is early.
It's a little early, yeah.
All right. Well, the next pick was Anthony Santander, and we were talking about Ozuna in round 4. He's here in round 5. Chris, which one do you prefer, Ozuna or Rooker? I'll let
you pick first, so it's up to you, buddy.
Who do you want more? Come on, let me know.
It's whoever you want.
You know who Chris wants more.
I'm going to take Ozuna. I'll let you have Rooker. I know you like Rooker a lot as well. That works pretty well for both of us. So.
Yeah, I think that's I was, as I said, considering taking Marcell Ozuna before. I don't think there's much difference between Rooker and Ozuna. If anything, I think Rooker maybe has a little higher upside just because Ozuna's older. You think there's a little room for decline. Rooker obviously has only done it at this level for one season, but I think both are great picks there. Way to go, us.
Yeah, virtual 5.
How much does your fondness for Brent Rooker have to do with your fondness for Michael Rooker and the role he played in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise?
I will say, every time I watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and he, does his little thing about how he may have been your father, but I'm your daddy, it gets me every time. I cry every time. Also,
Mary Poppins, y'all.
Phenomenal in the Walking Dead. We love this. Is a pro Michael Rooker podcast, is what we're saying. Always happy when that dude shows up. Frank has no idea who we're talking about.
I had to Google who it was. I mean, I guess this is just how normal people in life operate. They just know who actors' names are and can just visualize who they are off the top of their head. I am not one of those people, but I do know who this person is.
He was in
Guardians of the Galaxy.
He was in Mallrats.
Classic.
Svenning in Mallrats. What a legend, Michael Rooker.
Oh, man.
A legend indeed. You know who else is a legend? Scott White, who is on the clock. Let's catch people up. After Chris selected Brent Rooker, Adley Rutschman, Marcus Semien, CJ Abrams, Cody Bellinger. The rise continues. I looked at first base and said, maybe I'll take Cody Bellinger in round 6. Well, maybe not. And Scott, you're up for 2.
Oh, man. I don't love any of my choices here. Josh Naylor I'd be fine with, but I already have a first baseman. So they let him go longer than some of the recent mocks we've done. I don't have any outfielders yet. I have a little bit of FOMO about Lawrence Butler because I think I only have him in one league we're playing out. So I think I'm going to take him here, and I think I'm going to pair him with another outfielder who excels in points leagues especially, and was one of my big spring risers on the special we did for CBS Sports Network today, and that is Christian Yelich. Butler and Yelich. Take that.
I did. I can't remember. I was talking to someone at Tout Wars weekend when they were in town, and they were talking about I can't remember. Will Carroll, the injury guy. And he did say apparently that this injury, this specific type of surgery tends to have pretty good results. And as far as, returning to a previous level of play. So I was downer on Christian Yelich than I had been. And then I kind of started talking myself into him a little bit more. Not as much as Scott, but I'm a little frustrated that I don't have Christian Yelich. I don't think in any of my teams.
I mean, if there could be anything more reassuring coming off this back surgery than 3 home runs in his first 6 games back in the lineup, I don't know what it is. I'm not saying he's going to return to MVP level, but I do feel like he's going to be about as good as he was last year, at least, and possibility of more.
Remember last week when we did that episode, we talked about players we keep drafting, and we ended the show with FOMO players. Lawrence Butler was one of those players for me, Scott, and you were supposed to let me have him.
Oh, no.
Very mean of you. Why would you do that?
Well, semi FOMO for me. I think I only had him in my home league. And this is the draft. This is the draft to take your FOMO, guys. As I've been stressing all along, shallow league, replacement value is high, right? That's the way you phrase that?
Yes.
So if you miss on a pick, even an early pick, it's not going to sink your season. And so I am, those were both kind of reachy picks for me, but I didn't mind it in this league because I feel maybe pitching will eventually reach a state where I'm like, man, I wish I had taken more pitchers, but that's been pretty rare throughout this entire draft season. Yeah. And I just kind of want to fill out my lineup to the degree I can stand it before taking a pitcher.
All right. After Scott selected Christian Yelich, again, we're in round 6. There was Bryce Miller, Pablo Lopez, Josh Naylor, and Aaron Nola. Chris, you are up.
Yeah. And I'm running into the problem that I often run into when I take outfielders early, which is just that
there are a lot of good outfielders.
A lot of good outfielders left and a lot of good pitchers left. And I don't necessarily, everybody's being very, what's the word? I'm really struggling with the words today, which is
you want to go
good.
grab a Diet Coke, Chris?
I might need to. Everybody's being very conscious about not overpaying for pitchers for the most part in this draft. And so it's led to a lot of really good pitcher values at this point. And part of the problem is you wait around too long, everybody else is going to realize that there's good values at pitcher and take them. And I've
fallen into that trap before.
Yeah, I don't want to take a pitcher right now because there are many left in the good glob, but I don't want to wait too long and miss out entirely. So it's a balancing act right now.
I think the pick you made makes sense.
Yeah, I took Wilson Contreras, which is higher than I normally have him, but with him playing first base, we do think that there's a chance he's going to have a big playing time edge on most of the other catchers. We know he's a great hitter. I'll cite this stat again, but the last 2 seasons, he actually leads all catchers in weighted runs created plus. He's been the best hitter at the position, just hasn't had nearly as many plate appearances as his younger brother, William.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great pick. Oh, and that was a great pick. And that was what I was debating is, do I take Jordan Westburg or Spencer Schwellenbach?
Oh, you should have taken Schwelly, man.
I know, but I don't have second or third, so I figured I can kind of move Westburg around.
He's your Cy Young pick. What are you doing?
I thought I could get him in the 7th.
Oh, man. You need to have the whatever of your convictions.
No, but I love Westburg too. I love both of them. It's just I was playing a dangerous game there. I don't know. Maybe I should have taken Schwellenbach. I took Westburg, by the way. There was Michael Harris, Salvador Perez, Schwellenbach, Devin Williams, Shota Imanaga, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. We are into round 7 here. And
I think Chris just went to get a Diet Coke.
I think so.
Hopefully that's all he's getting.
Yeah. Oh, man. That one really hurts. I was playing chicken, Scott. I was playing chicken.
You know what? Schwellenbach was on my FOMO players because I don't have him in a single league. So I don't know. Did Chris put on a sweatshirt? What happened?
I've been wearing a sweatshirt. I may
Did you
regret
get a Diet
this.
Coke?
I may regret this in about 4 hours.
Yeah.
The nectar of the gods.
No, it'll wear off before 4 hours.
I do want to go back to Westburg for a second. I know this is not his preferred format. He didn't walk very much last year, but if he breaks out the way that we think he will, then it probably won't matter if he's just awesome. So
yeah, I think second base is weak.
I see that,
especially in this format. It's better in there's depth in Roto, but not so much in points.
So Altuve, Albies, Simeon, they all had less than their usual seasons last year. Among those 4, put Westburg in with Altuve, Albies, Simeon. Points per game, Westburg was second behind Altuve. He was ahead of Albies and Simeon. I don't think he will be this year, even with the breakout, because I expect them all to bounce back to some degree.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you, like, he was a stud in this format even last year on a per game basis.
Hey, Frankie, who are we thinking? I don't want to get my hopes up.
I don't know. I
only got one
I don't
name
like
in
this.
McHugh.
This seems a little collusive to me.
It's not collusive. I'm just making sure I don't get my hopes up for who I want. Because it's someone I haven't drafted yet.
Catching people up on picks, by the way. I'm not taking Jacob deGrom. So if you want him, you can have him.
It's not Jacob deGrom.
Into round 7, O'Neal Cruz, Sandy Alcantara, Teoscar Hernandez, and Emmanuel Clase. So I don't know. What do I need? I need a lot. Catcher, first base. Yeah, first base. It's all the red crosses at this point. It's who do you take a chance on?
I mean, Christian Walker is playing. Vinny Pasquantino, less certain.
If Pasquantino didn't have the injury, though, he would be gone 2 rounds ago in this format.
All right, cool. I wasn't going to take Tyler Glass now. I am going to take Get it ready. Get ready to hit the button.
Oh, no.
I don't have him yet. It's a FOMO pick. Let's fill that third base spot.
Hit it. Caminero. Caminero.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I
feel it. It's good.
It's potentially a reach, but that's actually where he's going over the last week or so in NFBC drafts. It was 80th overall. If he lives up to his expectations, he's probably a little better in Roto. He's not like a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. type as a prospect with the plate discipline, but if he lives up to expectations, he's going to be a monster in both formats.
Yeah, so I took Glass now. Chris took Caminero. Next pick was Max Fried. Which combo would you guys rather have? Jordan Westburg and Tyler Glasnow, or Schwellenbach and Caminero? Because that's basically my 2 for 2 right now.
I'd probably go Schwellenbach, but I'm a little less bought into the hype than everyone else. Like, I didn't move him up this spring, and I know pretty much everyone else did. Just because he was about as good as I expected.
Oh,
also,
man.
bad in his last start. If everyone was moving him up after his 10 strikeout start, got to move him back down after yesterday, right?
What did he do yesterday, Chris?
It was like 2 runs in 4 innings. It wasn't actually bad.
Oh, he stinks now. You should have felt with me. Gosh, I'm so upset. Whatever. I'm over it. Forget it. After Max Fried, there goes Bailey Ober. And Scott, you are up in 2 picks. I hear a lot of moaning and groaning. I don't know.
Yeah, I was hoping to pair Fried with Ober here, and they both go. A little before, I don't know. There's some hitters here who I feel like shouldn't be here anymore. And
I say just keep going hitters, Scott.
I might. TBH. Well, I am up. And apparently this guy whose name I didn't cross off is in fact gone. There are 2 pitchers left in my start of good glob tier. And their names are Spencer Strider and Jacob deGrom.
Oh, my.
Love that.
Oh, no.
I'm tempted.
Well, you got to do it now.
I mean, YOLO, right?
Only 2 strikeouts in 4 innings today for Jacob deGrom. Gave up 3 runs.
Oh, boy.
He looks washed.
Although Strider only pitched 1 inning in his most recent start. So
I'm definitely
bad picks across the board, really.
I'm definitely taking Strider. The other names I'm considering here are Vinny Pasquantino. I think he needs to be gone. I already have first base filled, and because it thins out in this format, I'm kind of tempted to take him so that one more team has a bad first baseman,
Mm-hmm.
Don't draft out of spite, Scott. Come
It's
on.
not spite. There's a strategic element to it. But there are plenty of other hitters who would suit me in my utility spot. So if it's not Vinny Pasquantino, it's not Jacob deGrom, it would be Zach Gallen, workhorse. But there are a lot of workhorses there. I'm taking deGrom. I don't care. I tell all of you all preseason, don't take deGrom, don't take deGrom. And here I am,
Well, he falls
last
to 8.
draft on record. I'm taking deGrom with
Don't take
Spencer
deGrom.
Strider.
It's don't take deGrom 50th.
Yeah, well,
85th is fine.
I did have him outside of my top 100 originally, but I
Mhm.
did move him up with the reports of him.
Once you saw that lower velocity, you were all
Lower
in.
velocity. Yeah.
I will say they took our Job, selected Mike Trout, 83rd. When I took Caminero, it was between Trout and Caminero. And for it, if I hadn't taken Acuna, I probably would have gone Trout because he's another one that I want to get on at least one team, and I don't know if I have so far. And
Do you have him on AL labor, or am I making that up?
oh yeah, I think I do. I always forget about that one. It's a
I'm
different
getting
team.
plaudits for my Jacob deGrom pick. See, this is why you never say never. You don't know. You draft with people who absorb your every word. Sometimes they're going to take it a little too far.
I agree with listener Ben. You've been white man can't jumping everyone on Jacob deGrom. You've been talking him down solely so you could get him in this one league.
What is that called? What is it called? I can't think the word for it.
Yeah,
Like with it, usually think of it in terms of playing pool.
Yeah, shark.
No, that's
Hustling.
not it. Hustle. Yeah, I hustled you all.
Look, man, the 180 innings you got from Jacob deGrom and Spencer Strider combined are going to hit so hard.
180. Oh my. Let's catch people up. There were a few in round 7. I don't think that I read off. There was Seiya Suzuki at pick 82, Mike Trout, then Strider to Scott. Into round 8, Jacob deGrom, Willie Adames, Edwin Diaz, Bo Bichette, and Vinny P.
Baby.
There he goes. Finally.
Vinny Pasquantino, and Chris, you are back up.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're still kind of in a place where a lot of interesting pitchers are left. So
wow, Christian Walker's still there too.
Yeah, thank you for pointing it out. Thank you for not pointing it out before I made my pick, because that's who I wanted to take.
I needed a first baseman, and
this is like the one head-to-head points league where first baseman, the cost wasn't driven up, and that's where I make sure to get one in round 2.
And only 380 points last year, but 470 and 507 the 2 years before.
Oh, it's the per game thing.
Love the lineup. Yeah. Yeah, love the lineup. Think he's going to be very, very good there. Love the park. I think there is. I would be lying if I said I didn't have any Jose Abreu concerns here with Christian Walker, because it's basically the same contract that they gave Jose Abreu, if I'm remembering correctly, and basically the same age. But Walker hasn't shown any signs of decline. Jose Abreu had. So I am still expecting big things from Christian Walker.
All right, we'll make it a first base run because Vinny P, Christian Walker, I selected Tristan Casas. Not that I felt great about doing it in round 8, but
yeah,
kind of
that's another one.
Represents a fall off at first base, at least for me.
I've talked about how
I wish I felt better about him.
I've talked about how Jake Berger and Ryan Mountcastle and Michael Tolia are kind of removed from the draftable range in this format. Casas, I think, has the upside still to be great in this format, but if the strikeouts are as big of an issue as we saw last year, I don't know. I don't know that he's going to, even in like a good scenario, be quite the starter we're looking for in a head-to-head points context.
He does walk a lot.
Yeah,
I still have a
lot of faith in the skill set. I know the strikeouts were up last year.
Yeah. And that was before the injury.
Before the injury too, but he does walk a lot. There's a lot of OBP and hitting cleanup in that lineup. It's just counting stats for days. We know he's going to play against both lefties and righties. So the playing time, the counting stats should be really good for Tristan Casas. At this point, I'm just trying to make myself feel better about the pick. So that's why I'm talking it up.
After Luis got pushed up. So we did get a first baseman pushed up.
Yeah. After Tristan Casas, Mason Miller, Justin Steele, Luis Ariz, and Hunter Green. So Ariz at 94th overall. This, based on his skill set, Scott, this should be his better format, but even at his best, he's like around 3 fantasy points per game. What do you think about it?
Ariz?
Yeah.
At his best isn't when he hits 350. Yeah. But like a normal Ariz season, which we just got, he is 2.74.
I do just want to say, I'm going to hammer this again. I think I've said it a couple times. I think the Padres and Marlins have misused him. He is not a leadoff hitter. Put that man 3rd or 4th in your lineup, and he's going to drive in like 110 runs with how much contact he makes. I think there is a world in which Luis Arias is a better fantasy option, but he's miscast because of, I don't know, preconceived notions about what a cleanup hitter is supposed to be, I guess.
Well, he technically does get on base at a
he just doesn't,
solid rate.
He's a bad base runner. The problem is he's only going to get on first. And so then he's not going to like go 1st to 3rd on a single because he's a slow base runner. So like the best way to use his skill set is with guys who are already on base and he can drive them in with his elite contact skills. But Padres aren't listening to me.
Certainly not.
Nor should they.
At the turn, we got Luis Castillo and Zach Gallen.
Finally, Gallen goes.
Round 9, where we get Raisel Iglesias. So closers falling a little bit further in this draft compared to others because they just don't score as many fantasy points. And in a points league, they typically go a little bit lower than a roto.
They're not as scarce is the main thing.
Yeah. Because we have Sparps. You only need to start 2 of them. You could wait until the final picks of the draft and still find a closer who has a job. So
it is interesting that Iglesias and Mason Miller have gone before Josh Hader. A little interesting. Not enormously interesting, but I do have him in a higher tier than those other 2.
All right, back-to-back picks and polar opposites of each other, I would say. Steven Kwan, who makes a ton of contact and is going to get on base a lot for the Guardians. And then Brenton Doyle, who might strike out quite a bit, but offers a lot of power and speed. Much better in a roto or categories league. What do you guys think about Doyle in round 9? Pick 100. Is that enough of a drop in this format?
There are other outfielders I like more for this format. Well, I mean, including Luis Robert, who I don't especially like for this format, but I would take him over Doyle.
All right. Searching around. It's time for a monologue, I think. Let's see. I've got 2 outfielders. Outfield still looks pretty good for now. I think it's back to starting pitcher. And I'm going to go ahead and take Joe Ryan. So that'll be Framber, Glasnow, and Joe Ryan. I feel pretty good about that top three.
Pretty good, huh?
Yes.
I have been playing starting pitcher chicken for like 4 rounds.
You only have Wheeler, Chris?
I only have Wheeler. I was hoping Gallen would get back to me that round. I'm going to kind of continue to play starting pitcher chicken by taking George Kirby.
Oh, okay.
Is an ace when he's right. And the last report I saw was that he had started to play catch over the weekend, and he's going to stay behind at minor league camp. But he said the quote was something like, I'm hoping to get back there by mid-April, up there by mid-April. I don't know if that means go on a rehab assignment by mid-April, but if George Kirby ends up only missing 3 weeks, that could be huge. Yeah.
If he were healthy, he'd go in round 4.
Yeah, top 50, top 60 in this
maybe
format.
Round 5, the latest. Yeah. So you're getting potentially 4 rounds of value here, missing a couple of starts from Kirby. And obviously with a shoulder, there's always a chance of a setback. So you factor that in.
But there's been apparently nothing structural wrong, and is throwing. So yeah, I don't know.
He was my top ranked starting pitcher, George Kirby, but I've seen him. He's been ranked there for a long time for me, and I see him usually go much later than I've ranked him. Yeah. So I was kind of hoping around 100 here.
Yeah, I have him around 100, and I have a little more exposure to George Kirby than I'm frankly comfortable with. But I think the pitcher pulls deep, especially in this format. Although there will be a lot of pitchers drafted. Most people will have 3 or 4 pitchers on their bench at least. But I'm willing to take that risk here.
All right. After Kirby, we get Ian Happ, Tanner Bybee, Brendan Nimmo. So 2 outfielders, and this is earlier for Nimmo, but both he and Happ excel in this format.
Yeah, very good in this format.
Great OBP. In Ian Happ's case, he's going to lead off, so lots of plate appearances, more opportunities for fantasy points. But Nimmo, great OBP, a little bit of power. Should hit in the middle of that Mets lineup and does excel in this format when he's healthy, of course, which right now it looks like he's healthy. So we'll see if that remains the case. Scott, you are on deck. You are on the clock. Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray.
I got my tight pants on.
And I thought about taking Robbie Ray just because it's another one of those FOMO guys, but I have Joe Ryan ranked so much higher. So got to remain consistent with the rankings. Scott, you're up.
Yeah. Okay. Boy. Well, since there was a little bit of a pitching run here, I feel pressured to take one because we're nearing the end of the end of the good glove tier. So I'll take Hunter Brown. I am agonizing over something that I'm not sure I totally want to verbalize. So, do I just take Luis Robert?
He's fallen so far.
This is pick 109.
I don't have a single share of him. I don't care for him. This isn't his better format. He did look good this spring.
I don't care for Robe.
YOLO draft, Scott.
Do it.
All right, I'm taking Luis Robert.
There we go.
What's the worst that could happen?
Oh, I don't know. A hip injury and he plays for the White Sox? I don't know.
Where does he normally go?
I can pull up CBS ADP and look at specifically in this format to see where he goes.
Which probably is tied closely to his projection, which is not a half bad projection.
But yeah, I mean, I pick, what are we at? It was like 109. I mean, that's a pretty big fall at this point.
Yeah, it's great value. Like, it's not his best format, even when he's at his best. I would be surprised if he even got to 500 points in that 2023 season when he had, he only had 458, played 145 games.
Mm-hmm.
that's still great value for Luis Robert. We know how high the upside is. We know when he's right, he's a must-start player. I think it's fine.
All right, Scott, I hate to inform you that Luis Roberts' ADP and head-to-head points leagues on CBS is 112. So,
you reached him 2 spots higher than he usually goes.
Yeah.
Disgraceful.
How could you? But yeah,
I don't know. I do rank him higher than this, but it took what seemed to be, to me, incredible value for me to actually pull the plug on, or pull the
I don't think he's done.
pull the trigger, which is actually sounds harsher, but is a more favorable phrase.
All right. Well, I am back up. Tell you what, Sonny Gray is near the top. I've lowered him. With everything that's going on this spring, I have enough shares. It won't be Sonny Gray at this pick. I can tell you that. Somebody I don't think I have too much of, but he's been a big riser. And
okay, I was wondering when he was going to go.
This is about the right time for.
I probably should have taken him.
Christopher Sanchez. Well, you took Freddie Peralta, which
nobody was going to take Freddie Peralta. Everybody hates Freddie Peralta. I should have taken
Freddie Peralta. To be fair,
I think it's an okay pick.
Well, no, Freddie Peralta last year, his mechanics got messed up. He talked about this earlier in the spring. He actually had to switch which side of the mound he was throwing off of because he said he couldn't get his fastball at the right angle to righties with his mechanics, but he thinks he solved that this spring. He's back to the third base side of the, I can't remember which side he's back to the side he was on before making the switch last season. So I do think hoping for some kind of bounce back from Freddie Peralta makes sense.
All right, catching people up after Scott selected Luis Robert, we got Jack Flaherty, Riley Green, Brian Matt Chapman, Freddie Peralta to Christopher Sanchez to me, and Isaac Paredes, who I was thinking about taking. I thought I might make it back.
Yeah, good format for him.
That was one where I said I didn't want to reveal what I was thinking. Like 109 or whatever it was just seemed too early for Paredes, right?
I thought you were referring to Christopher Sanchez, actually.
I have a few interesting players in my queue.
Yeah,
I would see if any make it back to me.
It's only the 111th pick.
If Paredes had made it back to my next pick, it would have been automatic. But
I would have taken him before you, so I guess it wouldn't have happened. But
he tends to. Well, I mean, we keep talking about he always goes outside the top 160, and then he goes like 110 for us. Granted, it's a head-to-head points league which is better for him, but still, 50 picks is a big move up. Maybe justified, but harder for me to pull the trigger on that as much as I like him.
All right. After I took Christopher Sanchez, there was Paredes, then Matt McClain, Clay Holmes, followed by Xander Bogaerts, Cal Raleigh, and Mark Vientos. We are into round 11. Clay Holmes at pick 118 as the top Sparp drafted. Is it too early?
Nope.
I think.
Nope. I hoped to get him with my next pick if I didn't get Paredes.
All right.
I think it might be too early. Like you look at him compared to like the top relievers on the board, and you hope that Clay Holmes has more impact on a per week basis than a high end reliever, but it's not a guarantee. And given likely workload limitations, like what did Reynaldo Lopez finish with last season? 372 points. That was 26 starts.
It's more about the impact he can make in a singular week versus a closer.
Sure.
It's not entirely that, but that matters more to me than what the final point total ends up being.
Yeah, I think the like 5 2-start weeks that he's probably going to get, very few closers are going to match what he does in the good 2-start weeks. It's probably only 20 to 25% of the weeks, though.
I think we have reached the point of people just taking the players that we like part of the draft, because last couple picks, we were into round 11. Mark Vientos, Roki Sasaki, Jurickson Profar, and Josh Hader. So this is much earlier than we're used to seeing Jurickson Profar, but He should be really good in this format. And to Uncle Wax's credit, he did say sorry in the chat before he made the pick. So.
That was the other thing I didn't want to verbalize. What I was going to say as it was approaching my last pair of picks is we just saw Ian Happ go. We just saw Brandon Nimmo go. We just saw Dylan Cruz go. I feel like the usable outfield pool for points leagues was dwindling quickly. And I couldn't bring myself to take Profar ahead of Luis Robert. I felt obligated to take Robert instead. And we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Ooh. Obviously, Profar's last year, his last year, meaning 2024. I don't know how many times I have to phrase it. Profar's 2024 was better even than Luis Robert's 2023 in this format. But can Profar be anything close to that again? It's still reasonable to ask that question, I would say.
All right.
I think it's more likely Robert could repeat his 2023 than Profar his 2024.
After Profar, we got Josh Hader. That was a pretty big fall. I feel like we were talking about Raisel Iglesias 2 rounds ago, and then Josh Hader goes here in round 11. Then Yusei Kikuchi, and I was in a bit of a pickle. There's no one that's really kind of jumping off the page right now as someone that I should take. And so Yainer Diaz, it felt like he just fell really far in this draft, 126th. I didn't have a catcher yet. So I went ahead and took Yainer Diaz, and Chris, you took one of your boys, Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, I think he should win a decent amount of games. I think there will be plenty of strikeouts. There will be some headaches, but I actually might like him more in this format just because the ratio risk isn't as significant with Carlos Rodon in a head-to-head points league. Well, there is no ratio risk. So yeah, I did consider Gavin Williams. I don't like him as much as Scott does, but I get it.
That was the last one.
Scott is struggling.
There were 4 players I was hoping would make it back to me. And there were Isaac Paredes, Clay Holmes, Jurickson Profar, Gavin Williams. Came very close on Williams.
Well, everybody looks up to you, you know?
Yep.
I thought about taking Nico Horner at my pick, and now he's gone. I have Jordan Westberg. I still don't have a third baseman / second, so I can kind of move him around. So I could have put Horner at second and then Westberg at third. But it appears I waited too long because now he is gone. And then there was Gavin Williams, who continues to rise. 129th overall here.
I was reading Saris's bold predictions piece today, and he had a bold prediction about the Guardians having a top 5 starting rotation this year. And within that subsection, I think he said Gavin Williams has the highest stuff plus of any starter who's been tracked this season. So again, I'm not as high as Scott is on him, but there is a lot to like. And Gavin Williams actually did in this piece, I don't know if it had been reported anywhere else, but he talked about how the elbow injury last season, exactly what we thought. It limited his ability to throw his slider. He said he wasn't able to get behind the ball as much because of his mechanics, and he has that back. He has the slower slider with more break that he had before last season. It's better than the cutter he was throwing. It's better than the harder slider he was throwing last year, I think. And with his fastball playing up the way it has, there's big upside here.
All right, after Gavin Williams, we got Kodai Senga, Cam Smith of the Houston Astros, 131st overall. He will be on the Astros opening day roster. If you haven't seen the video,
I was taking an Uber home from an outing today, and I'm sitting in the back of the Uber just like sobbing, watching the 2 videos of him and his mom.
It is very emotional. It's tearjerker indeed. So go check it out. Scott, at the turn, you bit the bullet and you took Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
Thanks for falling on that grenade for us.
He'll probably be okay, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried.
Yeah, I mean, Sonny Gray, Jacob deGrom, Spencer Strider, all in the same rotation.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
And I will pair him with JT Realmuto, who I think I prefer over Will Smith at this point.
I think I agree with that, yeah.
And Will Smith is still out there, right?
Yep.
He hit a home run tonight off of Big Jack Kohanowitz.
All three of us have a closer now or a catcher now, I believe. So we are basically the only ones. There have only been 6 catchers drafted, I think. But
and there goes Will Smith, next pick.
There you go, Will Smith. That's a fine pick. I have my concerns about Will Smith, but 135th is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think anybody who doesn't have a catcher yet should just wait till the last round to take one. There is still Shea Langoliers. I don't like him as much for this format.
Yeah, not great in this format.
Yeah. So I'd probably just wait until the end of the draft to take one if I didn't have one yet.
All right. Brandon Lau went in between the catcher picks there, by the way, who on a per game basis should be pretty good. Maybe, in that close to 3-point per game range. Obviously playing in Swampburner Field this year as a left-handed hitter.
Yeah, big upside.
Pretty good things there from Brandon Lau. We do have 3 IL spots, so when he gets hurt, you can put him in an IL spot and pick somebody else up. I was going to ask you guys if we should have bumped up the IL spots from 3 to 4 or 5. I've been thinking about it for years, and then I just always forget to do it before the league starts. And now it's time to do it. So.
I always prefer more IL spots.
Yeah.
It would really change. It would change some things. I think it would change this draft most of all because obviously you might see those injured players pushed up quite a bit because you're going to get a decent replacement off the waiver wire once that becomes an option. So maybe, I don't know. I could see the case for having more IL spots because it's a shallower league, exactly because that, and also why that would be worse for a shallower league.
Mm-hmm. Catching people up on some picks here after Will Smith, Grant Holmes, followed by Felix Bautista and Carlos Correa. So we are starting to see the Sparks go. Is this too early for Grant Holmes? Obviously, he's looked good in spring. He's in the Braves rotation, but what do you guys think?
I don't know if too early is even a relevant question to be asking in this draft because I don't think any of us have him ranked anywhere near that high.
Right. It's just in a points league where Sparks are so valuable, is the 12th round an okay time to take Grant Holmes?
I mean, at my last pair where I took Sonny Gray and JT Realmuto, there wasn't an obvious choice to me. Mm-hmm. And so I considered it. I was like, should I just make a bold move for a Sparp here?
Jackson Jobe goes off 3 picks later. So
Jobe was the one I was considering, actually.
I was the one who took him. I don't really ever take him, but again, we're kind of at this point where the draft is kind of flattened out a little bit. There's no one that's really jumping off. And so if I can get an advantage by having what I think should be a pretty good Sparp, then I'll go for it here with Jackson Jobe. So actually, Chris, I was a little surprised you didn't take him because I know you like Jobe quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm considering Sparps, and I don't want to say anything more than that.
All right. We will shut it down. After Jobe, there was Shea Langoliers and Ronaldo Lopez. I believe I saw Lopez as starting the 2nd game of the season for the Atlanta Braves. Scott, where are you at on Ronaldo Lopez? I can't ask if the concerns are gone because I think they're still kind of there, the velocity being down and the arm issues he had last year. But is this an appropriate range to kind of take the shot on?
Yeah, he was my highest ranked starting pitcher available. We're outside of the good glob now. I've moved him outside of the good glob, so it is kind of flat here. And I don't think Reynaldo Lopez is obviously the next best pitcher available, but he was my highest ranked pitcher available. And if not for the velocity being down this spring, I probably would have taken him with my last pair of picks. That's a concern. I pointed this out on the special we did for CBS Sports Network earlier today. The velocity is down a couple miles per hour for so many pitchers across the league.
Yeah.
That it's hard to single out ones to worry about. You're just kind of using it to ding the ones that you already had some kind of bias against in Gray's case because he had some forearm issue at the end of last year, and Lopez's case because he kind of came out of nowhere and overachieved and all of that. Oh, so velocity's down. You're just looking for an excuse to back down from the guy. Bailey Ober's velocity's down a couple miles per hour. Joe Ryan, Max Fried, plenty of pitchers, a lot of pitchers. And I'm not sure what to make of it. It's probably just spring thing. It's probably just I'm paying closer attention to that this spring than any spring before it. That's probably what it is. And we won't really know if it's a real issue for any of these guys until the regular season starts.
All right. After Ronaldo Lopez, Ronel Blanco, Byron Buxton, Andres Munoz, and we are into round 13. But before we move any further, let's wrap up part 1 here on the audio side of things. But if you want to hear the rest of this draft and our picks, we'll recap our teams at the end. Make sure to tune into part 2 here of our live Listener League head-to-head points draft. Welcome into part 2 of our live head-to-head points Listener League draft. We are into round 13, where the last couple picks were Zach Eflin, Tanner Scott, and Bowden Francis. Chris, I hope the sparp you were looking for was not Bowden Francis.
Can you just cool it? Can you just be chill for once and just not blow up everyone's spot?
I'm not going to take another sparp, so there's only one other person picking. So hopefully that person doesn't steal something, Chris. That would be unfortunate. It was not. It was Spencer Arrighetti. So I am up, and let's take a little gander here. Need either third base or second. I need a third outfielder. I need another starting pitcher. I need another reliever. So let's take a look at starter. It's kind of dwindling a little bit here. Who do I want to take? Nah, don't want to do that. That guy's kind of boring. I never take that guy.
Take him.
Go ahead and I'll take Nathan Eovaldi. He's kind of boring.
Okay. I didn't know that's what you were referring to.
No, he's not who I was.
Bad move.
He's extremely boring.
Whoa. Nathan Eovaldi is a totally fine pitcher, Scott. I would not call it a bad move by any means.
He is only fine, but yes, he is fine. I took Chris Bubich, so we had 5 sparps in the last round. Chris Bubich looked awesome today. 8 strikeouts in 5 innings against what is probably pretty close to the opening day lineup for the Texas Rangers. No Corey Seager, but everyone else looked pretty opening day-ish. He has kept most of the velocity gains that he had pitching out of the bullpen last year, averaged 92.6 miles per hour with the fastball, has 3 different secondaries that he can lean on. I think Chris Bubich, obviously, this is early for him in anything but a points league where he's SPARP eligible.
But he's my most drafted player because I always get him at the end of a points league draft.
But
not round
look,
13.
This always happens though when we do points leagues, especially with people who are really plugged into this format. SPARPs go way higher than we have them ranked, and we will probably see Mike Soroka within the next 50 or so picks. We will probably see who's another SPARP that I'm not thinking of.
No more name dropping. Nick Martinez went, by the way.
Nick Martinez goes, yeah, this is what happens in this format, though.
Yeah. After Bubich, there was Randy Rosarena, Nick Martinez, and Shane O'Mac.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Well, on a delay, the money's, Western Union's on their way, but maybe in 4 weeks, maybe in 2 months, we'll see.
Yeah, we're only delivering half the money. We can't guarantee you how much money there will be, but we're hoping for maybe half the money. That is Shane McClanahan, who the latest we've heard is that the arm is feeling better, but there's still no timeline. We don't know when he's going to throw or anything like that. So still very much so up in the air. And next pick was Austin Wells, who will lead off against right-handed pitching for the Yankees. And Scott, we are over to you. Check in and see what we've got. JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Jose Altuve, Manny Machado, Ellie De La Cruz, Yelich, Luis Robert, Lawrence Butler, and Sonny Gray, Jacob deGrom, Hunter Brown, and Spencer Strider as the pitchers.
Yeah.
Reminded me of South Park. I am Lord. Yeah. I am Scott.
I'm going to take Sean Manaea.
Come on, you used to be so excited about Sean Manaea.
I know. I'm just not. I want to time it perfectly. And
that one sounded like it hurt.
This is why I don't like picking at the end, because it's hard to know what's going to happen in the next 22 picks. It's hard to anticipate that. And I may be doing things too early, and I may be neglecting things I should do now. I mean, I'm tempted to take Rayson Rodriguez too.
You can't. Come on.
No,
Why can't I?
You've only got one starting pitcher who doesn't have injury concern.
Fill up all 3 IL spots.
This is the kind of thing I would do, and everybody would say I'm crazy.
Well, crazy like a fox.
Oh, gosh.
All right.
He did it. He took Rayson Rodriguez. So.
Yeah. So 3 of my bench spots, well, 2 of them are going on the IL, but 3 of my bench spots are full for the draft, for the purposes of the draft.
3 of them are going on the IL.
Right.
Yeah.
Two are going on the IL because that's as many IL spots as we have in this league. One will sit on the bench.
It's 3, yeah.
Oh, it is 3. Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay. I thought I was paying attention.
Yeah, I talked earlier about increasing it from 3, but I never did, so it's still just 3.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Scott, should we have a waiver run before the season starts? I guess Wednesday into Thursday. I was going to ask you guys beforehand, but another thing that I forgot. So.
I mean, we usually do, I think, but that's a lot of work for the commissioner. So that's
just hit a button.
Kind of up to you.
Yeah. I mean, well, if either of you guys want to step up, feel free.
I almost took Ryan Walker, who just went afterward here. I almost took him, which I don't normally do. You know, I like to wait until the end of the draft to fill in my RP spots unless it's with a SPARP.
Yeah.
So I was going to break one of my own rules to do that because I do think he's a high-end closer who lasted a long time. But I also think closers are really interchangeable in this format.
A lot of interesting players falling much further than ADP or where we have them ranked.
Kind of feels like ADP is just out the window, right?
Oh yeah, no, rankings are out the window. This is we talked about this last week. This is what happens in the last few days. You throw that stuff out of the window and people just get who they want to get because it's usually the last time you're going to draft. And so if you haven't drafted a specific player, just go get them.
So the next couple picks after Ryan Walker, Kevin Gausman and Nick Pivetta. We are firmly in a pitching run. And Scott, I was surprised you didn't take Nick Pivetta. I know he's someone that you like. I was debating Eovaldi and Nick Pivetta at my pick. I don't typically take Nathan Eovaldi, but if I was to do it, it probably would have just been for content if you wanted him so that I quote unquote sniped you. But yeah, I hope it works out for Pivetta in San Diego. I don't know that I have as much confidence as you guys do.
Well,
confidence is not the word.
It's also like kind of a default roto opinion, you know, because Pivetta, he's going to make up ground in strikeouts. He's going to hopefully make up ground at WHIP. I feel pretty confident about him in both of those categories, less so ERA. But I think he looks a lot more ordinary in head-to-head points because preventing base runners and collecting strikeouts just aren't really the name of the game in this format. I think he'll be a fine starter in this format, but I think he'll just be kind of ordinary.
Yep.
Which is why I sold out for ones who even though they're injured, who could be extraordinary.
Yep. And then the next pick is Jose Barrios, who is someone I think would be pretty good because he gets a lot of quality starts. He goes deep. I think he had 16 wins last year. Not that that's repeatable or projectable, but if you go deep into starts, you are more likely to win games. And Chris, you are up. Oh, he's got the stinking face on.
It's not great. Like there's just not a ton of great options right now. So I'm going to shoot for some upside at outfield and take Jason Dominguez.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I almost got.
He lasted a long time. I know I have Ronald Acuna waiting for May, and obviously, look with Brent Rooker, like the needle is relatively narrow here in terms of making this work because if Dominguez is good by May, then I've actually got a problem because I'm going to be sitting a very productive player. And I do think Dominguez, like, he is probably better in roto than points, but his skill set can work in this points format. There are going to be some strikeout issues, but hopefully it's not 30%. Hopefully it's like 26%. And he's a patient, bordering on passive hitter. He walks a lot. And so I do think there's going to be a decent on base percentage. He'll steal some bases. I think Dominguez can be overlooked in a head-to-head points format.
Yeah, I thought about him the past couple of rounds. I might have taken him here if you didn't.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great pick.
Thank you.
Like I said, it's one I wanted to do too. I just felt like I needed pitching depth more, given how much early capital I invested in hitting.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I still only have 3 healthy starting pitchers plus Chris Bubich and George Kirby. So I'm not overflowing with pitching right now.
And I like your pick there too, Frank. Drew Rasmussen. I don't know why. I mean, we haven't discussed him as much either, and I tend to overlook him among the Sparks. I think early on it wasn't clear he had a rotation spot, but now it's very clear.
Yeah.
Because the Rays rotation has gotten hit like so many others have, and
his stuff's looked very good this spring. From what I've seen.
He's better than Nick Martinez probably if we're just talking pitching ability. Bowden Francis too, I would guess. So I probably just need to move him up in the rankings as good as it does anybody now, a day before the season starts.
After I took Drew Rasmussen, Yandy Diaz, Adolis Garcia, Cedric Mullins, and Nestor Cortez. Yandy Diaz, if he gets back on track, I mean, he could be really good in this format. It's a good plate discipline. I think I saw somewhere he wasn't going to lead off the season. He's going to hit more in the middle of the lineup. Have you guys seen anything on the Rays lineup and where Yandy Diaz will hit?
I did not see that, but it's entirely possible that that's correct. Yes.
Let's see what roster resource has. They still have him lead off. So, all right, maybe I was wrong, or maybe they changed their minds. Felt like I saw it somewhere, but we'll see if Yandy Diaz can get back on track. Spencer Steer, 168th. And then the first pick of round 15 is Nick Castellanos. Is this an okay time to take an injured Spencer Steer?
Yeah.
If you need a first baseman, I wonder if the guy did need a first baseman. Let me check Benny and the Jets. He did need a first baseman. I think that's the perfect use of Spencer Steer in this format because nobody else is really startable. They're startable, like you can start them, but it's an emergency start situation as opposed to somebody you truly want in that first base spot to begin the year.
The one thing I've seen about Yandy Diaz, I'm reading a story about it now. He's going to play more DH, but I haven't seen anything about the lineups spot.
So if he is DHing more, they're just going to play Aranda in the field at first base?
Aranda is going to play more first base. Curtis Mead has played first, second, and third this spring, so I imagine he'll be part of that as well. I think it ultimately will come down to Mead and Aranda and who gets hot.
All right. After Nick Castellanos, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Merrill Kelly, Ryan Pepio, and Xavier Edwards. So, I was going to say, interesting strategy. I thought the person who took Steer also took Encarnacion Strand and just kind of, handcuffed those two together. But it was two different teams. So scratch that. I am up and still have a few holes in the lineup here.
I really wanted Xavier Edwards for my utility spot. That was when I was saying it's hard to anticipate 22 picks ahead. Yeah. It was between that pair of injured pitchers and Xavier Edwards, and it looked like I might have picked right there with Edwards making it back to me. Didn't happen.
All right, I'm going to go ahead. You guys tell me if this is too early, but I just feel like he's going to be so much better in this format. I went ahead and took Jonathan India, who I put at second base and then put Westberg at third. So.
And it seems likely he's going to be outfield eligible at some point. I don't know how early that's going to be, but they've been talking a lot about playing him in the outfield at times this season. So I think it could work out. I have the second base rankings pulled up right now because that is a spot I need to fill. So let's pull the trigger.
I don't have it ranked that way, but I probably should change it because like Luis Garcia, much better in Roto. Not sure he's going to play every day. Bryce Terang, much better in Roto. Yes, steals help here, but
all right, Scott's going to hate this one.
He's bad against lefties. Ooh, Christian Campbell, 175th. Shooting upside.
He thinks it's too early.
It's not too early. Nobody
hates it.
Nobody with upside is too early at this point. And Christian Campbell obviously has a ton of upside. I don't think if you end up dropping your round 15 pick because he gets optioned to the minors in week 3, that's going to sink your season.
No.
So it's fine. Jackson Holiday goes right after. That's who I would have taken instead.
It was between the two of them.
Yeah, I was considering him for my upcoming pick here.
So would you guys have taken both of those over Jonathan India as well?
I would have. I would have. I mean, I say in this format, it is India's better format, but his upside only goes so high. And I feel like more than anything, what you need, more than walkers, more than non-strikeout guys, you need upside above all. Yeah. As my approach to the draft would suggest, that's how I believe.
I was trying to figure out which of the 3 would likely make it back to me when I was picking previously, and it turned out none of them because, I took one of them. So I guess
not as cool as a cucumber, right?
Double snipe.
If I didn't take a second baseman there, I was going to take Lodolo, and
I thought about it too.
The thought I have is, did I will the Jackson Holiday pick into existence by taking Christian Campbell?
I think so.
Like if I just didn't touch it, does one of the 2 make it back to me? I think it's pretty obvious that once one goes, Christian Campbell versus Jackson Holiday, the next one should go fairly soon after.
Yep. After Campbell and Holiday, we got Alec Boehm, Mackenzie Gore, and Lodolo. Those were the 2 picks that set Scott into a
Gore and Lodolo. Here. I was going to take them. My pitching was going to be awesome at that point. Oh man, I guess I'm going to take Luzardo. You guys are high on him. I'm not as much, but
I kept passing on him just because if there's one area he does lack, it's efficiency and going deep. So
yeah. And I'll pair him with Matt Shaw. I'll get the last of the young upside bats who might. I think he's less prone to striking out than either Jackson Holiday or Christian Campbell. So he may turn out to be the better play for this format. Anyway, it's for my utility spots, so position doesn't matter. Just shooting for a little upside there with Matt Shaw.
All right, and then the next pick is Pete Crow Armstrong. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll catch you up on round 16 right after this.
Guys, can you feel it? Legends were born here. History was made here. These are hallowed grounds.
Hallowed grounds? The NCIS squad room?
Well, I wasn't talking about that, but I was talking about Augusta National.
All right. It's finally time for the Masters. I hear it's a tradition unlike any other.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today, doing our live 12-team listener league, head-to-head points league, by the way, should mention that as well. Our last live draft that we will do, so you can see where all the risers are going and where the injured players are falling to as well throughout the course of this draft. And in round 16, we now have Pete Crow Armstrong, Yohan Duran, and Jake Berger. Jake Berger does not walk very much, so this is not his preferred format, but it's a pretty big fall, 184th overall. So.
Yeah, I just don't even know that he's going to be more than borderline rosterable all year. 2.60 points per game last year. Okay, maybe he'll be better than last year because the lineup's improved, but 2.60 feels like you can find that off the waiver wire any given week.
Mm-hmm. Next pick was Walker Buehler, and Chris, you are up. Your pick was Mike Soroka.
Yeah, Mike Soroka. It's probably the last Sparp. Maybe there's one more who gets drafted, I think, but that's maybe two. I don't know. I think there's only 2 Sparps who haven't been drafted who are in rotations right now, I would say. So I don't
think I would take either of them. Did Wesneski already go? I feel like I saw his name. Maybe I'm mixing this up with one of the...
No, he hasn't gone yet. So there are 3 Sparps who are in rotations right now.
Yeah, I'm not taking any of them myself. So you guys can have at him.
Wesneski is pretty interesting. He's got a deep arsenal, and the stuff metrics like him a decent amount. So I'm open to it in this format. Yeah.
I went ahead and took a player I don't ever draft, and that's Royce Lewis, 187th overall. We have the 3 IL spots, and like you said last pick, Scott, just trying to shoot for some upside here and get him back at some point. And I have that flexibility with Westberg. I can move him to 2nd or 3rd. And, if Royce Lewis comes back and is anywhere close to the same player, we saw early last season and in previous years, then who knows? I might have a stud on my hands for, 50 games. I have no idea how long he'll play.
All right.
After Royce Lewis, Tanner Houck, Luis Rengifo, and Victor Robles, who should steal a lot of bases and usually drafted around this range in a categories league. But Chris, what do you think about in a points league? Can you still take Victor Robles in this range, or is it too early?
If you buy what he did at all last season, it's a great pick because he was not quite 3 points per game, I would guess. But with Seattle, he might have been because he wasn't playing every day in the 12 appearances he made with Washington. So it is possible that Victor Robles was a 3 point per game guy when he got to Seattle. So if you believe in that, I don't think he's a 330, 320 hitter, whatever it was, but I think there are 307 overall. But I think there were legitimate skills improvements last season that potentially started in 2023. His quality of contact was much better in a limited sample in 2023. He started swinging harder last season, and I think there's a decent chance Victor Robles isn't that much different than Xavier Edwards or Pete Armstrong, who were both already taken in this draft. So
with the Mariners, 3.05.
There you go. He's going to hit near the top of the lineup. His defense is going to keep him in the lineup. I think there is more upside than you think with Victor Robles based on what he did last season.
All right. After Victor Robles, there was Willie Abreu and Paul Goldschmidt. And into round 17, Brandon Pfaadt, Kyle Finnegan, Nolan Arenado, and Max Scherzer. I am on deck here. Starting pitcher has
thinned out.
Thinned out is a good way to put it here. Yeah,
I was hoping Scherzer would make it back to me.
I was thinking about Scherzer myself, too, who has dealt with a thumb injury this spring, but on a per game basis, we would expect him to go deep into his starts regularly. We hope. And obviously that's really good for this format. So, but on neither of our teams, Chris, and then Tommy Edmonds. So there goes that. So getting sniped left and right. I like Josh Lowe, but in a points league, I don't know. I think I probably waited too long for my third outfielder here. So I'm just going to keep waiting at this point. And I think I'll take a starting pitcher. Don't want to do that. You know what? Another player I don't ever really take, but I'll take a shot on the upside at this point. He's on my bench, and we'll see if he can put it together. It's Taj Bradley, who lasted a little bit longer here, 198th. And back-to-back Rays, Shane Baz to you, Chris.
Yeah, kind of just the same thought. I think there's a little bit of upside there. Obviously worried about the ballpark and what that's going to mean. But if Shane Baz or Taj Bradley find consistency with their secondaries, especially, I think there's plenty of upside there. Baz got no strikeouts at all this spring. 4 9 1/3 innings. It's only 9 1/3 innings, but obviously you would prefer seeing more from him, especially I just haven't seen anything on the slider being back. And that was the big key for him before the injury, and he just hasn't gotten it back. So it is concerning with Shane Baz. I wish there was more to be excited about.
Max Muncy going, that may save me from myself.
I thought about taking him too and just playing the hot hand at second and third between him and India and Royce Lewis when he's back. I probably should have done it, but
yeah, that's the last, I think, points league standout. 3.09 points per game for Muncy last year. I think people just don't trust him to stay healthy, or maybe they're expecting him to sit against some lefties. I don't know. He's kind of disrespected in general, but given that he's a specialist for this format specifically, you would think he'd get pushed up a little more. I'm up now. I'm a little concerned about the relief pitcher situation because the bottom of it's kind of gotten wrecked here with Alexis Diaz removing himself from the equation. David Bednar has a lot of concerns. The Royals situation is still up in the air. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and take Jeff Hoffman here because he's far and away the best closer left.
yeah.
So I didn't quite
This
make
is
it.
such a far fall for him too.
Yeah. Didn't quite make it to the end of the draft, but round 17. It's in that spirit, right? It's in the spirit of waiting till the end of the draft to take a closer. Let's see. What other player am I going to take here? Couple starting pitchers I'm looking at. It's a question of which one. How much time do I have left?
30 seconds.
I'm going to take Sugano because I like his week 1 matchups more.
All right, we're already
Toronto and
week
Kansas.
one. Let's go.
Well, I need somebody to start in week 1.
That's true.
And Toronto and Kansas City are his first 2 matchups. I think that's decent.
All righty. So Tomoyuki Sugano, first pick of round 18, who signed with the Orioles this offseason over from Japan, where he routinely put up great ratios, but didn't strike many people out at all. He's looked pretty good here in the spring. So we'll see if that success will translate here in the majors.
He's so efficient. I trust he's going to work deep into games early. I think he'll have the element of surprise early too.
And the Orioles need it. They need depth. So,
yeah.
I mean, length rather from their starters. So
I do have one starting pitcher ranked ahead of him. It's Reese Olson. I'll just go ahead and say it because I doubt he's coming back to me. He goes, no sooner does it come out of my mouth than Reese Olson goes off the board. So that was the other one I was considering.
Not like I was thinking about taking him or anything, Scott. So thank you for that.
I think he had already picked draft before it actually came out of my mouth.
Nope. I'm still going to blame you for that one.
Okay.
I think that's
fair
fair.
enough.
Couple other picks that happened. There was Bryce Terang, Spencer Torkelson. Those were in round 17. After Olson here, we get Dansby Swanson. And Chris, we were a couple of picks away from you. I don't know if you want to talk about what you're thinking. You might not want to give it away.
Oh, I don't think anybody's listening or cares what I have to say. So I'll talk about it. Yeah. Pitcher. I have 4 picks left, and I'm probably going to take a whole bunch of pitchers with those picks, at least 3, possibly 4.
But there aren't that many good ones to take.
There are not many good ones to take. Yes, I agree with that. But there are some interesting talents left, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for interesting talents. So we'll see.
All right. Next pick was Gabriel Moreno. I do agree that there are some kind of interesting talents, as you put it.
There are. I mean, we go really deep into the starting pitcher pool in these head-to-head points drafts, which is part of the reason why we are so shallow with the hitter pool and why the replacement level is so high for hitters, as I've been stressing this whole draft. If you don't get a stud hitter, you might as well not bother at all.
Yeah, I'm going to go with
Hayden Birdsong's an interesting one, but of course he's beginning the year in the bullpen. I imagine an opening in the rotation will develop for him sooner than later, but with me having so many injured arms, I'm not sure this is the league where I can wait around for that.
Is it 5 in-season appearances to gain RP eligibility?
10.
10. Yeah.
10.
So that's tough because that's probably at least a full month, probably more.
5 to pick up SP, 10 to pick up RP.
Yeah, that's tough. Do I want to go boring or do I want to go upside? I'll go upside because I hope the 2 boring guys, one of them will be there. I'm going to go with Jack Leiter, who it's just a bet on high-end talent and stuff. I would guess, as with Christian Campbell and Jackson Holiday, that picking Jack Leiter probably speaks a Kumar Rocker pick into existence within the next handful. Not that it has to, but that's just my prediction. But I think Jack Leiter, the stuff is really, really good. A lot of command concerns. The arsenal is deeper now than it was last year, and I'm interested to see what it looks like with a real chance. I think to get at least a couple of turns in the rotation. Patrick Corbin signed there. He got sent down to the minors today. Sounds like he's going to make 2 tune-up starts at the minors. So we'll see how quickly Patrick Corbin becomes an option for them. Ideally, it never happens.
Yeah.
But they signed
Jack
him for a
Leiter
reason.
has to perform for.
Leiter and Rocker can both absolutely pitch Patrick Corbin into irrelevance, but it's not the likeliest outcome.
I wanted to point out a couple things here. So 2 picks before your Leiter pick was Gabriel Moreno, and I kind of I said earlier that catchers, once Will Smith and JT Realmuto went off the board, they didn't matter in this league. There are 2, I think, high upside late round catchers for head-to-head points. One's Gabriel Moreno because of how little he strikes out, and the other is Austin Wells, who I'm not sure we've talked about enough in general.
He did get drafted much earlier, though.
He did, and so his stock apparently, regardless of our lack of talking about him, his stock appears to be on the rise. Huge spring, a swing that's geared for Yankee Stadium, going to bat leadoff against right-handed pitchers, and I think has more upside than we've been getting credit for. Bat speed reportedly up 3 miles per hour this spring. He could have a huge year and be the biggest breakout of all at catcher. Austin Wells.
He was quite good up until about I think it was September is when just everything fell apart for Austin Wells. But he was looking like a legitimate breakout last year until things kind of fell apart. Yeah, he had
the data was good last year before picking up 3 miles per hour on his swing.
Yeah, but he had a 795 OPS on the last day of August last year, and then it was terrible in the playoffs, terrible in September. But I think there's plenty of upside there. Yeah.
All right, catching people up on the picks after way back when Chris selected Jack Leiter. I took Dustin May. Then there was Michael Wacha, Mitch Keller, Kumar Rocker, Lane Thomas, Tyler Fitzgerald, and then into round 19, Max Meyer, Tyler O'Neill, Logan O'Hoppe, Bubba Chandler, and Trevor McGill.
The other pick I wanted to comment on was Mitch Keller, who I like for this format because I think the damaging starts are less damaging than in Roto. And especially I like him for week 1 because in the extra long 11-day week 1 we're using in this league, Mitch Keller's first 2 matchups are the Marlins and the Rays, who actually were the worst of the 2 Florida lineups last year, the Rays. So you can't ask for much better than I think the Rays have more upside than that. I think they'll have a better lineup than the Marlins this year, but I don't know that it'll be a good lineup, and you can't ask for much better matchups than Keller has there first 2 times through.
Did you guys talk about Kumar Rocker's start from Tuesday by any chance?
No, we have not mentioned that, but more of what we talked about with his last start. He was throwing that slower curveball a lot more often, 21 times out of 70 pitches today. Got 6 whiffs with it on 21 pitches.
He looked good. 4 shutout innings, 8 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on 70 pitches, 6 on the curve, 4 on the fastball, 2 on the sinker. Kumar Rocker is trying new things. He's got this
throwing a cutter,
curveball. He threw a new cutter 5 times too. Yeah. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he didn't really use a sinker very much last season. It was his most used pitch in this start. So
Yep.
He's trying. Kumar Rocker's trying some things out and seeing what works. So
it's entirely possible I bet wrong on Jack Leiter taking him ahead of Kumar Rocker. Kumar Rocker went about 2 picks after Jack Leiter, if I'm remembering correctly. And yeah, Rocker, it was about 80% 4-seamer slider. The rest mostly sinkers, but he only threw 16% of them. So yeah, it was almost entirely 4-seamer slider.
All right, next couple picks. I selected, well, there was even more. Where did I leave off? Gosh, I don't even remember. This entire round. Max Meyer, Tyler O'Neill, Logan O'Hoppe, Bubba Chandler. So he's a stash. He won't be in the Pirates rotation to start the year. Trevor McGill. I took Justin Verlander. Chris, you selected Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mentioned 2 like older, boring guys when I picked Jack Leiter, and those were the 2, Justin Verlander and Eduardo Rodriguez. So
there you go. After Erod, Colton Cowser, Josh Lowe, Casey Mize, Eugenio Suarez, and Scott at the turn, Jordan Romano and Jose Soriano.
Yep. Jose Soriano, another pick with week 1 in mind. His matchups for week 1 are the White Sox and the Guardians. Again, this is for the extra long week 1, the 11-day scoring period. 2 picks before him wasn't my pick, but Casey Mize, an even better situation with matchups to open the year, Seattle and the White Sox for Casey Mize.
I want to highlight my Eduardo Rodriguez pick because we really haven't talked very much about him. I think there was a little bit of conversation about a week ago because he's having a good spring. And is his velocity up? Is that why we were talking about him?
He has had a really good start.
Yeah. But you don't have to go that far to him being a really, really good fantasy option. 2023, he had a 3.30 ERA, a 1.15 whip, 383 fantasy points in 152 innings. He's backed by a really good team. There's a lot of win potential there. He can go deep into games when he's pitching well. I'm happy with Eduardo Rodriguez as a bench pick in this league.
On March 14th, Erod went 3 2/3 perfect innings with 6 strikeouts. And
that'll work.
Yeah, he was pretty good in that one. I'll quickly pull up the StatCast data because I feel like there was something kind of interesting about that start. Maybe it was velocity related. The last couple picks, by the way, were I was gonna do it, Chris. It's about
okay.
There's 2 picks left, but last couple picks: Ivan Herrera, Brandon Woodruff, Richard Fitz, Ryan Presley, and Chris selected Jared Jones, who we got an update on Tuesday, has no torn ligaments and will not need surgery. He's shut down from throwing for the next 6 weeks, but as of now, not done for the year.
So. Probably out until June at the absolute earliest. So that is a pick where it's stash him on the IL immediately and ride it out and see what happens. It does mean that I'll have 2 players on the IL to start the season in Ronald Acuna and Jared Jones. So
some of us have 3.
I got room for 1 more injury, and that will definitely happen in the next couple of weeks. If the second injury, I'm going to have to make some tough decisions.
All right. Well, yeah, good pick. I was getting ready to make that pick myself. So,
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not the final verdict on Jones, but it's as encouraging as we could have hoped for. It wasn't he has ligament damage, but he's going to try to rehab.
Yeah, it's not an elbow strain, at least based on what they told us.
They said no ligament damage. So I don't know if they needed the second opinion because the inflammation was too great. I mean, it took this many days to get the second opinion, so I kind of suspect that's it. They just needed to wait for the inflammation to subside to get a good look there at it. Any pitching injury has the potential to bring about a torn ligament because of you compensating for that injury. So it's not like there's no other shoe to drop here. Maybe there is, but based on the reporting we have right now, we should take this as good news for Jones. But yes, he's going to miss at least the first couple months, and so it's a late round stash.
Yeah, I would say I think the likeliest outcome is he's just not very useful at all this season. And to the point you made, like about it, there's no ligament damage. Well, Garrett Cole didn't have any ligament damage last year. he had a nerve injury. He ends up tearing the UCL. So like there are a lot of situations where there's a delayed effect to these kind of things. Obviously, then you have like Gavin Williams last year pitching through that elbow injury, was able to pitch, but just wasn't very good. So expectations should be low, but as a bench pick in a league with multiple IL spots, I think it's fine in the later rounds. It's probably undraftable in leagues with no IL spots, but that's a different question than the one we're talking about.
All right, lots of picks going off the board. I took Luis Severino, just kind of another boring starting pitcher that I can maybe play the matchups with there. Jacob Wilson, Yu Darvish, who will start the season on the IL. Roman Anthony, who you have to stash. Cedar Rafaela, and then Jeffrey Springs. We are into the final round. Brendan Donovan, Ryan Jeffers, Zach Neto, Shane Bieber. So
another good IL stash.
Lots of injury stashes here flying off the board. We've got 3 IL spots, but they're going to fill up fast, and I'm just letting you know.
Jeffrey Springs I've been kind of down on all spring. Obviously coming back. Chris Bassett goes. That was going to be my end of draft innings eater. But getting back to Jeffrey Springs, his last start was encouraging. Obviously shut down with an elbow issue at the end of last season, so we kind of needed to see something from him this spring. I am in the wrong file, which is why I can't find what I'm looking for. Okay, so on Saturday, Jeffrey Springs struck out 8 in 4 innings. His whiff rate in that start was 27%, which is, as an overall whiff rate, pretty good. We didn't have the full data to see what his velocities and everything looked like, but 8 strikeouts in 4 innings with a 27% whiff rate, I think says a lot. So hopefully he's rounding into form, Jeffrey Springs, just in time for the season. And I don't love him for the 2 starts in the long week, but if you're playing just the weekend is its own scoring period, Jeffrey Springs gets Seattle for his first matchup. It's pretty good start there.
Chris, I think it's a fine pick. You took Hayden Wesneski and
it's a fine pick. So I'll talk you through my thought process there. There were 6 pitchers in my queue. 3 of them are Sparks. Hayden Wesneski was one of them. Shane Smith is the other one. I'll just sell them all. Luis Ortiz. So I did want a third Spark. However, I also know that there are only 6 picks left. And so it's very unlikely, at least before I said that Hayden Wesneski, Shane Smith, and Luis Ortiz would all be drafted. I think none of the 3 are necessarily must-draft players in this format anyway. We talked about that earlier. I wanted a third Spark to be able to take advantage of matchups with the 2 that I have.
You spoke it into existence.
Yeah, that I figured that would happen. If I hadn't mentioned any of them, they probably all go undrafted. Maybe Luis Ortiz gets picked now because Shane Smith was the next pick after Hayden Wesneski. Whatever. You're welcome. The reason, so I did pick Hayden Wesneski and then immediately regretted it because the guy I was also considering, I was considering Ben Brown because I think
he's in the Cubs rotation.
He's in the Cubs rotation, which I did not expect. I'm frustrated because I just dropped him in one league. He's got an insane knuckle curve. His curveball is legitimately like a 70 grade out of 80. He's got a very good fastball as well. He's been working on a changeup. Who knows? So I like the upside there. I also thought about Ryan Weathers or Brian Bayo, just because gives me another, basically it allows me to draft 3 extra players to, I'm going to put 3 guys on the IL. I probably could have just picked up Hayden Wesneski or Ben Brown or Luis Ortiz or whoever it was if I had taken Ryan Weathers. So I probably should have taken the IL stash.
Yeah.
Just from a roster construction standpoint.
And I probably should have done the same thing instead of taking Severino because I probably could have just picked up Luis Severino. So
so that's something to keep in mind as you get to the end of your drafts is you might prefer one player to another, but when waivers run, you have to consider how likely is it that player is going to be available, because there are still a handful of useful pitchers left who I will be interested in with the right matchups and in the right situations. So I probably should have, Probably should have just taken the IL stash, but it's fine. I have 2 already, so it's not like I've lost the ability to get a few extra bites at the apple, but that's where I'm thinking.
And in this final round, I also took Lars Nootbaar as my third outfielder. I think I took 2 in my first 3 picks.
That's a good pick, though.
With Tucker and Julio Rodriguez, and then waited way too long. And he's going to lead off. He's good OBP guy, so I'm hoping it works out for Lars Nootbaar.
If it works out, he should be awesome for this format. Of course, this is like the 4th straight year we've said that.
That's exactly right.
Leading off, great plate discipline.
Yeah.
It could be a must-start player, even in a head-to-head points league, yes.
And Scott, Mr. Irrelevant went to you, Chris Paddock, who I know has a good matchup early on, and you probably need that.
Yep. I kind of, with my late round pitching selections, since I wasn't able to zero in on my favorites necessarily, with so many others being, with so many of them being scooped up in between my picks, I went for ones that, I kind of like, but a lot of it had to do with their early season matchups too, because some of the pitchers I drafted early aren't going to be available to me at the start of the season. But Chris Paddock, I think, has been really interesting his last couple starts here in the spring. The induced vertical break on his fastball has been up. This was also true of his start Tuesday. Not up quite as much as in the previous start, but up enough that he got 7 whiffs on that fastball, which I love to see. And in his previous start, Chris Paddock had even more than that on the fastball. It was like a Gavin Williams start, 9 swinging strikes on the fastball in his previous start. So there may be something here with Chris Paddock. His first turn is against the White Sox. He might get a second turn in the long week 1, and that would be against the Astros.
Yeah, I don't love that, but if he doesn't,
I would take a second start against anybody.
But if he doesn't, what I wanted to point out is if it's not, then it's at Kansas City, not a bad matchup, and then probably versus Detroit. So the schedule is pretty favorable for Chris Paddock. If he's what he was last year, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
But I think he's an interesting early season. Let's see what happens kind of guy.
All right, let's wrap up by taking a look at each of our teams. Scott was drafting 12th in this one. And the hitters, you got JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, go Phillies, Jose Altuve, Manny Machado, Ellie De La Cruz. In the outfield, Christian Yelich, Luis Robert, Lawrence Butler. And your utility is Matt Shaw.
And those are my only hitters on the whole team.
What do you think of it, Scott?
What do you think of it?
I think it's really good. I mean, you don't have a first or second or third round player in the outfield, but it's still players that should be really good. Lawrence Butler, Yelich, the infield is awesome. Matt Shaw, I did see that. I think he's expected to bat 8th now, even after batting 5th 2 times in Tokyo. So that doesn't help his fantasy value, obviously, but I mean, he's your utility guy, and you have 3 injured pitchers, so you can pick somebody else.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where if he hits, he'll move up the lineup. I don't know that he's going to move into the top third of the lineup, but he'll move up to 5th or 6th or whatever if he's performing well. And if not, there are a lot of good hitters on the waiver wire. I just went with the upside play for my utility spot in this deep format. Yeah, it's a good lineup. I there's no knocking it, independent of any other context. I kind of wish, for as much as I invested in it, I kind of wished it looked a little stronger. The Luis Robert pick, I don't know. For some reason, I'd feel better if that was Jurickson Profar, even though I rank Robert ahead of Profar. Profar is just better suited for this format. And really, I wanted a Profar type for that utility spot, and I'd feel much better about it then. My first 2 picks, remember, were Ellie De La Cruz and Bryce Harper at the 1-2 turn, both of which felt a little early. But part of that is we've had to bump some of the early round bats down, and some just aren't as good in this format. So, yeah, it's a great lineup, and I hope it holds up because it's clearly going to be the strength of my team.
Because the pitching staff is Sonny Gray, Jacob deGrom, Jesus Luzardo, Hunter Brown, Tomoyuki Sugano, and the relievers Jeff Hoffman and Jordan Romano. But there are some hurt pitchers here on the bench: Sean Manaea, Chris Paddock, Jose Soriano, Spencer Strider, and Grayson Rodriguez. So shooting for upside here, Scott, hoping that you get a borderline ace back in April with Strider, and then maybe like an SP3 type with Sean Manaea.
Grayson Rodriguez could be an SP2.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of, can I piece it together until those guys are back? And look, maybe they suffer setbacks. Maybe they're not the same when they get back. Those are risks. But I think given how forgiving this format is for pitching and how much of it is just playing matchups, capitalizing on 2-start weeks, which have gotten harder to predict, but they're still a thing. I think you can go the piecemeal route at starting pitcher in this format much more than a categories league. And clearly I leaned into it. I didn't come in with a plan to draft all these high-end injured pitchers, but nobody else was. And they seemed like the most impactful at the time I took them. So I'll make do. Like I said, I loaded up on guys who I feel like are good matchups plays at the start of the year. Jose Soriano, who's the headliner of the week 1 sleeper pitchers, Chris Paddock, Tomoyuki Sugano to a lesser degree. And I do have Hunter Brown there too to kind of stabilize things. Hopefully Jacob deGrom's healthy, at least for now. Sonny Gray's the real wild card here because it's possible he's just broken, or it's possible, 2 starts into the season, we're not thinking about spring training anymore. So I'm not going to say my pitching staff rides on Sonny Gray, but it looks a lot better if Sonny Gray is okay.
All right, let's slide over to Chris's team. He was drafting 7th in this one. And you've got Wilson Contreras, Christian Walker, Christian Campbell, Junior Caminero, Carlos Correa, Yordan Alvarez, Jason Dominguez, Jackson Chourio, and Brent Rooker. So some unproven names here, but lots of upside. Correa is someone who excels in this format when he's healthy. What do you think about it, Chris?
I'm happy with that lineup. I think if the top prospect making his debut on opening day is the weakest part of my lineup, I feel pretty good about that because Christian Campbell, look, it's no sure thing. And I don't have a backup second baseman, so I will probably try to grab one on waivers, but there's plenty of upside there. I mean, if he's as good as we think he can be, he's a must-start player even in a head-to-head points league. And I think everyone else in my lineup is pretty much a must-start player in this format, except for Jason Dominguez. He could be that, but obviously Ronald Acuna will be a must-start player when he's healthy. So I think I'm very happy with this lineup. It's a similar approach to Scott's, maybe less upside and less risk in the pitching staff, but I might prefer Scott's actually.
Yeah, you know what? Reading it all off and then forgetting that you had Ronald Acuna on your bench, that definitely does change things because he was your 4th round pick. So I mean, he could be a stud from mid-May on, and that would make this lineup look even better. On to the pitching staff, you got Zach Wheeler, Carlos Rodon, Shane Baz, Freddie Peralta, Jack Leiter, 2 Sparps and Mike Soroka and Chris Bubich. On the bench, you have Eduardo Rodriguez, George Kirby, Jared Jones, Hayden Wesneski. So looking through the pitching staff, I was like, there might be something missing here. And
it's the Kirby.
Yeah, and you have George Kirby on the bench.
So if he comes back in April and pitches at 85% of what he was last year, the pitching staff looks a lot better because you're swiping out Leiter probably for George Kirby and Jared Jones whenever he's back. I've got 3 guys I can put on the IL to open the season, and that gives me an opportunity to add maybe a boring rotation filler to play some 2-start matchups with, or probably at least a second baseman, maybe a shortstop with Carlos Correa's injury risk. But I'm okay with this in a 12-team points league. It's a lot of risk, but the worst thing that happens is I'm in last place. Who cares? You know?
I mean, that's a pretty bad thing that would happen.
I mean, I don't want that to happen. I'm just saying, like,
your life's not over, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna survive.
That is the worst thing that could happen in a fantasy baseball context. To be clear,
well, no, like we don't have a punishment for this league. I don't have to like eat 20 waffles at the Waffle House.
If you're going to be that lackadaisical about it, maybe we should.
Well, I'm trying. It's just I'm not gonna tear my hair out about it. It's a risky build.
At the end of the draft, you talked about taking another injury stash.
Yeah, I had forgotten about Acuna.
You already have 3.
100%. Yeah,
that worked out. All right, we'll take a look at my team. I was drafting right next to Chris, and I was 6th pick in this one. I've got Yainer Diaz, followed by Tristan Casas, Jonathan India, Jordan Westberg, Trey Turner, Kyle Tucker, Julio Rodriguez, Lars Nootbaar, and Marcell Ozuna. On the pitching staff, I've got Nathan Eovaldi, Tyler Glasnow, Framber Valdez, Joe Ryan, Christopher Sanchez, 2 Sparps, and Drew Rasmussen and Jackson Jobe. On the bench, I've got Justin Verlander, Luis Severino, Dustin May, Royce Lewis, Taj Bradley. I don't know why I read off my whole team.
Yeah, that was hard for me to keep up with, and I'm looking at it.
I don't know why I did that. I think I'm just tired, man. It's we're ready for the season to start. If you can't tell, Scott, what do you think about my hitting lineup? I guess we'll start there.
On paper, it looks really good.
Yeah, it's excellent.
I think there are things that could go wrong that would make it less good. Lars Nootbaar, obviously that was your last pick, so it's hard to complain too much if that goes wrong. Tristan Casas, I have concerns about him. I think Jonathan India's upside is only so high, but I'm nitpicking. It's a strong lineup. So if we look at your pitching staff, which you already read off, it's the strongest pitching staff of the 3 of us, right?
Yeah,
I don't think your offense is significantly worse. Now, I will point out, the ideal scenario.
It's not significantly worse, is what you're saying. The offense.
Yeah, it's not significantly worse. And
right.
the ideal scenario for Frank is Royce Lewis is back in late April, and Jonathan India is not his starting second baseman, right? He moves Jordan Westberg to second. Royce Lewis is a must-start guy when he's healthy. Mm-hmm. So, it definitely could come together.
Yeah, I think I invested the most of us 3 in pitching and just pitching in general, because I took Sparps a little bit earlier than I usually do. It was just, I kept saying it throughout the draft. There were these points where the hitter pool felt very flat to me. And so I figured, let me try to get an advantage at RP and draft some of these Sparps here. So I do get Jackson Jobe and Drew Rasmussen. Rasmussen, not someone I typically target, but with the injury to Shane McClanahan, they are relying on him a little bit more here. Reading your teams and then mine, I felt like your offense was clearly much better than mine, but maybe I'm just being a little bit too harsh on my team. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's much better. It kind of depends how you feel about some of these players. Julio Rodriguez, I think there are diverging opinions on him for this format specifically. Tristan Casas. I already named them off.
So I think you have 4 key guys in your lineup who are clearly better in roto than points. And that's Yainer Diaz, Jordan Westberg, Trey Turner, and Julio Rodriguez. But that doesn't mean they're bad in points. Julio Rodriguez, like I said earlier, 2023, he was a top 15 player in this format. It was like a 560-point player. Trey Turner is actually, I think, consistently underrated in this format because he is almost always a 500-plus point performer when he's healthy. And even last year when he missed time, I think he was still clear of 3 points per game if I'm doing the math right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like way clear.
Yeah.
So I think it probably looks a little worse because of that, because they're just roto specialists, but you got them at good values and the overall build makes sense. The one thing I do want to point out about the approach that Scott and I took in a head-to-head points format, the thing you have to keep in mind is you don't have to have the best team all season. You can be under 500 for 2 months, but if your team gets it going and you're a top 6 team in a team where 6 teams make the playoffs and you're really good and you have difference makers by the playoffs, it doesn't matter that you were bad early on in the season. It narrows your margin for error. If you're like not having Ronald Acuna and George Kirby in April, that's going to be tough to navigate for sure. But if those guys come back and are 85% of what they were the last couple of seasons, this team is going to be really, really tough to face in the playoffs. And it's the same with Scott. If half of his injury risks stay healthy, it's going to be a great team.
I think it's a good point. And we receive a lot of questions about that specific thing, is drafting injured players in head-to-head, where you are looking more towards the playoffs. You have to make the playoffs, obviously, but thinking about how can I field my best team by the time we get to the playoffs. My thinking was with only 3 IL spots, and I feel like they fill up so fast, and that I didn't want to start with all 3 of them full because I feel like things are just going to go sideways very early on in the season and players will get hurt. But I totally get why you guys did it because you got all those players at values. I'm trying to think if there was a specific name that I was targeting. Jared Jones is one for sure when you took him, Chris. And I think when Scott took Grayson Rodriguez, I was kind of thinking about it. Strider was the other one. I debated Glasnow versus Strider, but opted for the pitcher who's healthy now. But yeah, Strider might be amazing once he's back. So
Tyler Glasnow looked amazing the other day for sure. And he generally is when he's healthy.
Yeah, Glasnow's a top 10 pitcher in this format when he's healthy. There's no question about it. It's just
who would you guys take straight up, Strider or Glasnow?
I rank Glasnow higher, and I think I'd follow through on that.
Cool. All right, so I made the right pick. Well, I guess we'll find out once the season starts. Let us know what you think of the draft in the comments, and who won the draft. Whose team did you like best between Scott, Chris, and myself? We are going to wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow with our season preview. It's almost here. Bye-bye.
I thought we've been previewing the season.